Burning history, the controversial legacy of Mississippi burning.
Art versus history. It is the summer of 1988 when a film arrives in theaters destined to shake the collective conscience and, simultaneously, divide American public opinion. Mississippi Burning, directed by Alan Parker, a visceral, powerful, sweaty police thriller. But beneath the surface of this masterpiece of tension lies a much more complex battle, the one between cinematic mythology and historical truth. Today, we won't just talk about a movie. We will talk about how Hollywood rewrote the trauma of 1964, transforming a collective struggle for civil rights into a police procedural dominated by white heroes. We will explore Freedom Summer, the true role of the FBI, and how collective memory can be shaped and distorted by the power of images. Welcome to a new episode of Celluloid Heart. This is Mississippi Burning. Before diving into the analysis of the film, for those who unfortunately haven't seen it, if you love cinema, it is definitely worth catching up on. Here is the plot in broad strokes. Mississippi Burning, 1988, directed by Alan Parker. We are in 1964, during Freedom Summer. 3 civil rights activists, 2 white Jewish boys and 1 black boy, disappear mysteriously on a dark night on a back road in Mississippi, immediately after being released by local police for a trivial speeding violation. The FBI sends 2 agents to investigate the disappearance, and the heart of the film lies in the contrast between their approaches. Alan Ward, Willem Dafoe, he is the young agent in charge of the operation. Idealistic and formal, he represents the North. He wants to follow bureaucratic procedures to the letter and believes in written law. Rupert Anderson, Gene Hackman, is his older partner, a former Mississippi sheriff. Cynical, pragmatic, and sometimes violent, he knows the unwritten codes of the South. He knows that official law counts for nothing there, and that to get answers, one must get their hands dirty. On arrival, the 2 collide with a wall of silence, or omerta. The black population is terrified and won't speak for fear of retaliation. The white population and local authorities, including the sheriff and his deputy, Clinton Pell, are openly hostile and colluding with the Ku Klux Klan. The more the FBI investigates, the more the Klan responds with violence. Churches burned, beatings, and intimidation become the order of the day, turning the town into a war zone. While Ward's procedural method fails, Anderson realizes the key to breaking the silence is Mrs. Pell, the wife of the violent local deputy sheriff. By getting close to her, Anderson manages to break through to her conscience, obtaining crucial information on where the boys are buried. With evidence in hand, but unable to secure a murder conviction in a corrupt state, the agents resort to unorthodox stratagems on federal charges of violation of civil rights, finally succeeding in bringing them to court. Freedom Summer and the true timeline. To understand where the film deviates, we must first anchor ourselves in reality. We are in 1964. It is not just any moment, it is Freedom Summer. In the film, it seems almost as if the disappearance of the 3 activists is an isolated event in a small county. In reality, this was a massive initiative coordinated by historic organizations like CORE, the SNCC, and the NAACP. The goal? To register black voters in Mississippi, a place where extra-legal terror and bureaucracy systematically prevented voting. The 3 real victims, James Chaney, a local African-American, and Andrew Goodman and Michael Schwerner, 2 white New Yorkers, were not unlucky passers-by. They were targeted activists. The Ku Klux Klan had specifically targeted Schwerner. On June 21, 1964, after visiting a burned church, the 3 were arrested by Deputy Sheriff Cecil Price. Released in the dead of night, they fell into a premeditated ambush. It was a brutal execution. Their bodies were buried in an earthen dam. The FBI investigation, codename MIBURN, was indeed massive, but the film compresses and alters these events to serve Hollywood pacing, creating what the report defines as critical friction between reality and fiction. Artistic license. Mrs. Pell and the Informant. Here we enter the slippery terrain of artistic license. The debate over Mississippi burning ignites over Alan Parker's narrative choices. The most clamorous one concerns the resolution of the case. In the film, the breakthrough comes thanks to Mrs. Pell, the wife of the racist deputy. She becomes the moral conscience, a trapped woman who, in a moment of redemption, and perhaps seduced by Agent Anderson, reveals where the bodies are buried. It is a moment of great cinema, powerful melodrama. But the true story is much more cynical and less romantic. There was no Mrs. Pell who betrayed the Klan out of guilt. The location of the bodies was obtained thanks to a Klan informant, known in documents as Mr. X, who was paid the handsome sum of $30,000, a pure, cold economic transaction. By replacing money with feelings, the film injects a redemptive arc for the local white community that in historical reality did not exist. The white savior myth and the FBI. Perhaps the harshest and most enduring criticism leveled at the film concerns the white savior trope. In Mississippi Burning, black people are reduced to the background. They are a choir of mourners singing hymns or passive victims waiting to be saved. Historical figures like Martin Luther King or local activists like Fannie Lou Hamer are absent or marginalized. There is a detail that hurts historians. In the film, when the activist's car is stopped, the black activist James Chaney is sitting in the back, silent, passive. In reality, Chaney was driving the car. He was the one who knew the roads. He was the one assessing the risks. Putting him in the back seat is a symbolic choice that strips him of agency and leadership. And then there is the FBI. In the film, the agency is presented as the vanguard of justice, with heroic agents willing to do anything. Historical reality is ironic. J. Edgar Hoover, head of the FBI, detested the civil rights movement, considering it a den of communists. Real activists did not see the FBI as saviors, but with deep suspicion. The film transforms a reluctant federal intervention into a moral crusade.
Torture as justice, the specialist. There is a scene that still causes debate today, the arrival of the specialist. Frustrated by the code of silence, the FBI agents in the film resort to illegal methods. They kidnap the mayor, threaten castration, use terror against terror. The film suggests that the FBI won because it was more brutal than the Klan. This is a dangerous fantasy. There is no evidence that the FBI used torture or vigilante methods in the MIBURN case. Victory came with boring, methodical police work and offers of money. The film uses this fiction to justify the pragmatic brutality of Agent Anderson, distorting the nature of the rule of law.
Anatomy of systemic racism. If the film fails in history, it excels, however, in atmosphere. Parker paints a racism that is not just individual hatred, but an institutional web. The sheriff is in the Klan. The police are the Klan. Judges suspend sentences. Visually, the film is masterful in showing the architecture of segregation. We see separate fountains. The one for whites is modern and clean. The one for blacks is old and dirty. White homes have electricity and solid walls. Black homes are shacks, vulnerable to fire. This housing vulnerability is not just set design, it is a metaphor for the lack of state protection. Black homes are not shelters, they are targets. The psychology of hate and the mule monologue. One of the high points of the screenplay is the attempt to explain the economy of hate. Not all racists are irrational monsters. Many are desperate poor people. There is a crucial monologue by Agent Anderson. He tells of his father, a poor Mississippi farmer who hated black people. Why? Because his black neighbor had a mule slightly better than his. Anderson says, "If you ain't better than a nigger, son, who are you better than?" This perfectly captures the concept of the psychological wage of whiteness. For poor whites, racism is a tool of self-esteem, a way to feel superior when the economic system is crushing them exactly as it crushes blacks. The Klan offers them a social hierarchy that capitalism denies them. The archetypes, Anderson versus Ward. The engine of the film is the dialectic between the two agents. On one side, we have Alan Ward, Willem Dafoe, the Kennedy-esque idealist, the intellectual from the North with glasses. He believes in procedure, in federal law. But the film tells us that his idealism is powerless against the visceral hatred of the South. On the other is Rupert Anderson, the former Mississippi sheriff, the pragmatic realist. He knows the territory. He uses his hands, intimidates, understands the social codes of barbershops and diners. The film has a clear and controversial thesis. To defeat the evil of the South, you don't need Northern law. You need a Southern man who is willing to get his hands dirty. It is a celebration of aggressive virility against procedural intellectualism.
Legacy, controversies, and conclusion. Mississippi Burning leaves a complicated legacy. Coretta Scott King boycotted it, saying it had turned a black struggle into a white movie. In the original closing credits, James Chaney was credited simply as Black Passenger, a final insult that erased his identity, corrected only after protests. Yet, as a cultural artifact, the film has undeniable power. Peter Biziou's cinematography, awarded an Oscar, makes us feel the heat, the orange flames of churches burning in the night, the sweat. It shaped how America visually remembers that period as hell on earth. In conclusion, Mississippi Burning is not a history lesson. It is a window into how 1988 America wanted to see 1964, a tragedy solvable by the intervention of white heroes, where racism is defeated with fists and not with years of political organizing. A magnificent film, and at the same time, a profound distortion of memory.
Thank you for accompanying us on this investigation through the flames of Mississippi. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a like. Celluloid Heart will see you at the next cinematic adventure.